This is Colleen Lemma, Starseed Astrologer and Spiritual Messenger from SacredSoulEmpowerment.com. And I'm here to do a Soul Reflections video for you, a video that I sometimes do, but I haven't done for a little while. I do the weekly and the monthly angel card readings, giving you messages regarding the astrology of what's happening, as well as messages from our angels and guides. But every once in a while, I like to touch base with you on a little bit more of a personal level and do what's called a Soul Reflections video. And I feel like it's definitely a very important time of the year as we're transitioning from 2018 until going into 2019. Yay! So Happy New Year, everyone. And we're in a whole brand new energy. And I do want to share a little bit about what that energy means, at least from my perspective, and share with you some of the highlights astrologically that we are going to be experiencing throughout this new year of 2019, and focusing most of all on these next few days going into January, because it's going to be a really important time energetically and astrologically as we move into this first month of the new year. So let's start by just talking a little bit about the numerological energy of 2019. Now, I did touch on this in the monthly angel card reading for January, but let's look at that a little bit more in depth. Now, if we look at the universal vibration for 2019, what we do is we take the numbers and we add them up. And if we take 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 9, it of course equals the number 12. Now, a lot of times in numerology, we like to look at the reduced digit of that double or triple digit. And in that case, we would add the 1 plus the 2, and that gives us a 3. Now, if we look at just that reduced vibration of the number 3, the number 3 is all about growth, expansion. It's about thoughts, ideas. It's about communications, belief systems. It's about optimism, joy, abundance, prosperity. There's a lot of things that are associated with the number 3, and they all sound really wonderful, and they are in fact really wonderful. So we can look at 2019 as being a year, again, of growth. This is a time of expanding our ideas into like the bigger picture. You know, if we look at the number 3, you know, if we actually see the number 3, it's got those two kind of open edges that are kind of almost like, you know, a half circle or portal kind of opening into another dimension. And that's how I like to look at the number 3. It's about, again, expanding into new energy, expanding into new ideas, expanding our reality to move towards that joy, happiness, abundance, prosperity. However, the number 3, again, because it's about expansion, and it likes to, you know, it's almost like making the energies bigger. It's that expansion of energy. So it can expand not only this joy and happiness and optimism and ideas and abundance and prosperity and our goals and our ambitions, but it can expand also any fears that you might have, any anxieties that you might have. It can expand us into our maybe negative self-programmed belief systems. And I shouldn't just say self-programmed, but also those belief systems that we grew up with or learning from our own parents, or even those we inherited from previous lifetimes that are connected, you know, to us by our cellular memory. So again, we can expand into anything, you know. So here it is, the point is that we want to expand into the most positive. And a lot of times when I'm doing a weekly or monthly video, I always like to use the term glass half full rather than glass half empty. And that's really what we want to expand into with that 3 universal year vibration of 2019. We want to expand into the biggest, brightest, most optimistic, most abundant and prosperous, you know, most adventurous and exciting kind of energy that we can. Now, also I want to go back to the whole idea of communication. You know, that's a big part of the number 3. And so this year is going to play a crucial role with our networking, with our communications, with any form of communication like speaking, teaching, writing, blogging, anything that deals with the art of communication and thought, anything that deals with the realm of the mental mind of thought, and also again with that throat chakra of communication. So this is a great year to be, expanding our network of people as well. So whether we're expanding our network of people through taking classes, teaching classes, reading material, connecting with Facebook groups, connecting again just with those of like mind, traveling to find those people. This is again a great time to do it. Now let's look at the numbers just briefly that make up the year 2019, because that's important too in numerology. When we look at what the vibration of a number is, and we just looked at the reduced vibration of 2019, but we're also going to look at that double digit of 12, because that's actually what makes up that lower vibration or reduced vibration of the number 3. But we also look at the whole year too. So first, when we look at the number 12, let's look at that first, because that's the next step up from looking at that 3 vibration. The number 12 is made up of the 1 and the 2. And that 1 and the 2 of the 12 then makes up the 3. So basically, how do we get to that 3 energy? How do we expand? How do we, utilize our communications and network with new people and use our sense of joy and optimism and expanded thinking and all the things that go along with the number 3, the abundance, the prosperity? Well, it's made up of the 1 and the 2. And the 1 is about us as the individual. The 1 is about confidence. The 1 is about leadership. The 1 is about taking charge. And so this is taking charge of your life, taking charge of what it is that you desire to create. What are your goals? What do you want to manifest in 2019? So, again, that first number of the 1 is very important. And then the 2, what does the 2 vibration mean? In numerology, that's about the other person. That can be partnerships. And not just romantic partnerships, business partnerships, friendship partnerships, family partnerships. It's you and the other person. And then, of course, the 3 expands out into the group. So now we have us, the individual, the number 1, taking charge, being confident, being courageous, making things happen, initiating things. The number 1 is a number of initiation. And then we have the 2, connecting with other people of like mind, a partner of such that can listen to, collaborate with, help us work out the details, help us to move into that reality that we're working towards. And think about that for a minute too. The 1 is very masculine and the 2 is very feminine in numerology. So we're also utilizing the balance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine principles in this year with that number 12. The divine masculine, again, take charge, make things happen. You're the creator of your own reality. And number 2 is that more fluid, divine feminine, surrender, allow, just be open to going with the flow, trusting, having faith. If we combine those 2 principles, that brings us to the number 3, that energy of growth and expansion and connecting and collaborating with the group. Okay, and then briefly, 2019 is really what makes up the 12. So again, we have the 2, other people, our partnerships, our relationships. Relationship is very important. That's how we learn about ourselves, is by being the mirror and they are the mirror for us. That's, where we're seeing a reflection of who we really are and a reflection of even sometimes our shadow traits that helps us to grow. And of course, we've been, having that too since the year 2000. So that's always a part of this energy now, is that energy of the other, the other people in our lives. And the 1, I'm going to skip the 0 for a minute, but the 1 is the number of the individual. So again, we have our own sense of self that we've been exploring over the last few years. And we're always exploring ourselves, but really, this has been a time over the last few years of recreating ourselves, finding ourselves again, trusting in ourselves, making our own way, making our own path, making our own lives. And this year we have the 9, because of course 2018 we had the 2 and the 1, and 2017 we had the 2 and the 1, but now 2019 we have this 9 vibration. That 9 vibration is the humanitarian vibration, unconditional love, compassion, selfless service to other people. We're combining all of those elements of the 2, 1, and the 9 to get that 12, and then the 12 to get that 3. And so it's layer upon layer. That's how we're looking at this energy. Just like with astrology, with astrology, there's layers upon layers upon layers of energies and information. And the same holds true with numerology. Now, I want to go back to the 0 for a minute because I skipped the 0 because 0 technically isn't a number. It's not considered a true number in numerology. And just like with the tarot deck, there's no 0 in the tarot deck. Well, there actually is. It's the Fool card, right? But the Fool card is both the 0 and the Master number 22, as I spoke of a few videos ago. But the 0 is about divine protection and guidance. If you look at the teachings of numerology, they look at the 0 as that divine protection and guidance as you're going through the story of your life, the evolution of your life, the evolution of your journey here on this planet. So here, and it doesn't mean that, when we get to years that don't have a 0 in it, that we don't have divine protection and guidance, but it becomes much more important, or not important, what's the word I'm looking for? It becomes much more where we're learning about, I want to say becoming aware of, that's a good way to say it. We're becoming more aware of that universal protection and guidance that we all have. We're becoming more attuned to that within our sense of self, that it's not just about us and that we're all alone and trying to make these decisions, but we're becoming more awake and more aware, and people are starting to realize that there is that divine influence out there. Well, not really out there, it's everywhere, but there's that divine influence that's guiding us, that's protecting us, that's nurturing us, that's loving us. So that's a part of this year as well. Now, I do want to go back to the number 12 because that's really what 2019 adds up to be. Just to show you briefly the Hanged Man, or the Hanging Man in the Syrian Starseed Tarot, as it were here. This is the vibration of our year. And the Hanging Man, or the Hanged Man, talks about an aspect of surrender. If you can see, he's not in a state of movement here. Okay, and I don't want to, bring fear into people thinking that we're not going to be moving or anything. This is a time of expansion and growth. But the Hanged Man is about that aspect of surrender, which brings in that aspect of trust and having faith. He's suspended upside down here. And what does that mean? In the Hanged Man card, in the tarot card of the Hanged Man, it indicates that we are needing to look at things from a different perspective. That the events that are unfolding in our lives and on the collective of this planet, that we're needing to look at them from a different vantage point, okay? Having that different perspective. As he's turned upside down, things look differently. So things may not always be what you think, or what they seem to be, or what they appear to be with our third dimensional eyes. Now, if you can look really closely, the Hanged Man, even though he's suspended upside down and he's not moving and he's in this aspect of surrender, his crown chakra is all lit up, okay? So this is kind of like, normally if we're upright, of course, our crown chakra is up here, right? And we're kind of downloading information through our crown chakra and into the cellular memory of our bodies and activating other parts of ourselves. Here, he is turned upside down, so his root chakra is kind of on the top, and not the crown chakra. The crown chakra is here in the bottom, but it's all lit up. So it's almost like taking the wisdom and the download of information, and it's being more grounded because it's in the position of the root chakra. So you're grounding that higher dimensional information, okay? We're always receiving at various times, influxes and downloads and whatnot of information. But here, this is being grounded, and he's being still while it's happening. He's not in a flurry of activity, so to speak. He's allowing this process. He's surrendering to this process of awakening. He's surrendering to this process of grounding this energy. And, on our journey here and in this year, it is a good thing to take some time to allow that process to unfold, to allow the higher dimensional energies, as it were, as they're coming in, to take some time to let it kind of almost like digest within you, to recalibrate you, if you'd like to look at it that way. So that's a little bit about that 12 vibration. Now I want to talk about the highlights of 2019, and of course I'm going to try to keep this video on point to be around 30 minutes or so. So we're not going to talk about every single thing, but definitely this month of January is very important because we have eclipses in January, and the eclipses, the solar eclipses, the lunar eclipses, always heighten and intensify the energies that we're going through. But we have to back up for a minute to December 31st of 2018, the very last day of the last month of 2018. Mars, the planet of energy and action and forward movement, considered the warrior planet, is moving into his home sign of Aries. So for all of December of 2018, he was in Pisces. We had a fire planet. Mars is a fire planet. Energy, action, let's make it happen, masculine energy. And he was kind of watered down in that surrender, Pisces, spiritual realm, which there's nothing wrong with. It was, created kind of this spiritual warrior kind of energy. But now he's moving into his home sign. He's going to be in Aries until about mid-February. So this is really going to initiate some things happening. This is new beginnings. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, the sign of new beginnings. Mars wants to move. He wants to make things happen. Okay? So Mars going into Aries, we're going to right off the bat, the beginning of the year, we're going to start to see things start to unfold and start to happen, start to change, start to redirect. And as Mars is moving through Aries, he's going to connect with Uranus on it's about February 13th or somewhere in there, right before he changes, signs to go into Taurus, mid-February. Mars will be connecting with Uranus, the Great Awakener, the planet of the unexpected, which will by then be at the 29th degree of Aries, the last degree, a critical degree of Aries, and boom, bang, we're going to see some things happening, okay? So again, that occurs right before mid-February. But in the meantime, on January 5th, we have a new moon solar eclipse at 15 degrees of Capricorn. New moons are about new beginnings. The energies of the eclipse intensifies things and it makes them longer lasting. So now we're not just going new moon to full moon to the next new moon. The new moon solar eclipse is the energies of new beginnings last a lot longer. And what happens before the new moon hits? We're in the dark of the moon. The dark of the moon phase a couple days before the new moon happens is where we're releasing, where we're letting go, where we're needing to surrender and things fall away. So we're in this kind of real huge, intensified, releasing, and then coming into something new. Death and rebirth kind of energies. That new moon solar eclipse is connecting with two heavy planets. Saturn, the planet of responsibility, the planet or teacher of lessons, the planet of karmic lessons. And then also that solar eclipse is connecting to Pluto, which is about transformation, regeneration, transmutation, death and rebirth, dealing with the shadow side. Big changes happen with Pluto. On January 6th, the very next day after that solar eclipse, is when Uranus, which has been retrograde for a little while, and retrograded back into the sign of Aries in the fall of 2018. Now it's turning back to direct motion at 28 degrees of Aries. And so those first few days of the month, as Uranus is slowing down and getting ready to shift its movement, we're going to start to see some unexpected energies happening, because that's what Uranus rules. Strange, unusual, explosive, unexpected, redirections, higher dimensional energies, fifth dimensional energies being downloaded, humanitarian energies. It's a great energy. I love Uranus energy, but sometimes it can be a little shocking, and sometimes things, again, can be a little unexpected with this. And we have to also note that Uranus, as it shifts direction at 28 degrees of Aries, is challenging in square aspect to the North Node and the South Node at 26 degrees of Cancer and Capricorn. Now the nodes, the North Node and the South Node, are karmic points. Karmic events occur with nodal kind of configurations here. And Uranus is really going to activate something. Now, Uranus has been in range of this connection to the North Node and the South Node North node being where we're going in the present moment or towards in our kind of futuristic way of looking at time. And the south node is more about past lives, past energies, past events. So anyway, Uranus has been in connection with the north and south node. It's been in range since late September of 2018, but it started to be really exact in November of 2018. Now, even though the nodes travel backwards, so it's going from 28 to 27 to 26 where they're at now, then they'll go 25. So they're starting to pull away from Uranus, but because Uranus is turning directions, it's going to activate some sort of karmic redirection, okay? And it doesn't mean exactly necessarily on January 6th, but again, in that range of a few days before and a few days after. And again, you've probably already been seeing that redirection and some of the events unfolding that may, again, have been unexpected since late September, especially through October, through November, again, December 2018. January 13th, we have Jupiter in its first challenging square to Neptune. And Jupiter is a planet of expansion, just like we're in this 3 energy for the universal year of 2019, which is about expansion and growth. Jupiter is about expansion and growth. He's in Sagittarius, which is his home sign, first of all, very optimistic. Let's, view the world in a big picture kind of way. Let's, change our perspective about things or enlarge our perspective about things. Jupiter in Sagittarius is really good for that. So by itself, Jupiter in Sagittarius is a great energy. However, on the more, if you want to call it negative side, it can be a little bit judgmental. Jupiter in Sagittarius can be a little opinionated. And then we have Neptune. Neptune is the planet of the spiritual realm, unconditional love, compassion, again, selfless service to other people. Just kind of, being in that mode of the intangible. Neptune is a very intangible kind of planet, which is why it rules the spiritual realm. Now, Neptune is in Pisces, his home sign as well. Now, the, I guess, not so positive of Neptune is that there can be addictive tendencies, there can be unclarity, there can be unfocused energies or a feeling of being ungrounded, things being, again, elusive or confusing with Neptune and Pisces. So we've got 2 planets in their home signs, but they're challenging one another. Now, the positive of that is that there could be a lot of creative expansion, a lot of spiritual expansion, a lot of new learning that we're doing. It's a very creative, to me, very creative and positive energy if used in the most positive way. However, because it's in a square aspect to one another, this can bring up, again, judgments, it can bring up illusions, it can bring up not seeing things very clearly and then exaggerating that. Jupiter likes to exaggerate things or make things bigger. And with the confusion of Neptune, it can exaggerate that confusion, or it can exaggerate that elusiveness where we don't know what's happening or we don't have a clear picture. And the point here is trust and faith. Trust and faith, okay? So if we operate out of trust and faith and knowing that we're being divinely guided and divinely led, that Jupiter expansion coupled with the Neptunian energies of the spiritual realm and spiritual guidance can kind of, again, if we surrender, that to me is Jupiter square Neptune, if we surrender here and trust, then things will move a lot smoother for us. Now, this energy, again, as I said, the first time Jupiter will square Neptune is January 13th. It also does it a second time on June 16th, and then a third time on September 21st. And so there's going to be this ebb and flow of the Jupiter-Neptunian energies. And then we close out the month of January with a full moon lunar eclipse. I mean, we started, of course, with a new moon solar eclipse, and then so what follows a solar eclipse is a lunar eclipse. So this full moon lunar eclipse on January 20th or 21st, depending on what part of the world you're in, is going to be at 0 degrees of Leo, the very first degree of Leo, which is also considered a critical degree. Critical meaning, the 29th degree, the last degree of a sign, or the 0 degree point, the first degree of a sign, is an intensified kind of energy. The 29 being the last of the degree before going into the next sign is like winding things up. It's something that's coming to conclusion with that 29th degree. Like I mentioned, Mars connecting with Uranus on the 29th degree of Aries about mid-February. That's concluding something. There's something being concluded there. Whereas this full moon lunar eclipse at 0 degrees Leo is about some sort of new beginning, which is interesting because a full moon, usually that full moon cycle indicates endings, right? After the crescendo or the intensity of the full moon, then we have the waning moon cycle where things start to be released and let go. Whereas the new moon often indicates new beginnings. So this is interesting because the full moon is going to indicate something coming to some sort of expansion or, well, like I said, intensity, and then the releasing and letting go. However, this full moon lunar eclipse is at 0 degrees, which also indicates a new beginning. And if that weren't enough, and I hope I'm not confusing you with all this endings, new beginnings, and the degrees and whatnot, but again, there's a lot of energies happening here that's going to signify true endings and new beginnings. So old ways of life, old situations in life, old events in life, old relationships in life are going to fall away. And then it's going to open up this door, if we choose to walk through that door, to new beginnings, new directions, new events, new people, new things coming in. One other thing with this full moon lunar eclipse at 0 degrees of Leo is that it squares Uranus at 28 degrees of Aries. That's considered an out of sign square aspect, because normally the signs that square Aries are Cancer and Capricorn, for those of you that know a little bit about astrology. But because Uranus is at that 28th degree, it's only 2 degrees away of going into 0 degrees Taurus. Taurus and Scorpio are the two signs that square or challenge Leo. So this is considered an out of sign square aspect, this full moon lunar eclipse at 0 degrees of Leo to Uranus at 28 degrees of Aries. And in other words, too, as Uranus now is moving forward, when he gets to the point of moving back into Taurus at 0 degrees of Taurus, which is going to be March 6th, so that's not too far away, within a couple of months, Uranus will be moving back into the sign of Taurus, where he'll be for 7 years. That will activate that full moon lunar eclipse energy. So again, that full moon lunar eclipse is going to last a lot longer than just a couple of weeks, or a lot longer than just the 4 weeks until the next full moon. It's going to be activated by Uranus on around March 6th, or the first beginning part of March. So this is an unfolding of things that, you know, this first part of the year definitely is heavy duty and very important. So I feel like we're getting here close to time, and I thought I would get a lot farther with some of the energies, but you know, I do feel pretty much guided that maybe this is enough, you know, just talking about this month of January and talking about the energies of the new year in general and how that relates. You know, we do have other things throughout the year, like Jupiter going retrograde on April 10th. We have Pluto going retrograde on April 24th. We've got Saturn going retrograde on April 29th. But, you know, we'll have plenty of time to talk in the future during the monthly angel card reading videos, during the weekly videos, and doing also future soul reflection videos. We'll be able to talk more in depth when we get to that time. So for now, let's just stay in the present moment. For now, let's just know that we're in a hugely transitional time as we end 2018 and move into 2019, a new energy. I'm really excited, actually. You know, for a lot of you, maybe it makes you a little nervous or fearful. And again, don't expand into that energy. Expand into optimism, expand into excitement, expand into the idea of adventure, expand into the idea of new beginnings. Mars going into Aries, I'm really excited about that because it's really going to activate some new beginning energies. And again, with, you know, the eclipses in January, it's going to bring some changes, and some of it may be, you know, perhaps unexpected, and it might be a little uncomfortable, but know that this is leading you to the next step on your destiny path, and that this is allowing us to grow and expand and become more in alignment with where it is we're supposed to be, with who we're supposed to be around, with what we're supposed to be doing. And I, for one, am looking forward to it. So I send you all a lot of love and light. And again, watch for future videos. And until then, I send you many angel blessings. Namaste.